In the multiverse, a clown rolls over the madhouse. Here's your look at the new McFarlane toys as the DC Multiverse, Batman Arkham Asylum, the Joker. An insanely homicidal supervillain, the Joker's white skin, green hair, and blood-red lips belly the chaotic nature underlining his cartoonish appearance. The self-styled clown prince of crime has no superpowers beyond a capacity for incredible violence and a skill for creating deadly mayhem. He frequently concocts elaborate schemes to entrap his arch-nemesis, Batman. Before we get a closer look at the clown prince of crime, the first thing we're going to do is figure out how tall this figure of Joker stands. Taking my digital tape measure, the Ultra Measure-tron 5000, that's not a joke, that's actually what I call it. I'm going to take it right to the very top of what I feel is his head, right there, right there. And regurgitating it to you, the viewing audience, you're looking at the figure from Arkham Asylum, the Joker standing 7.4 inches in height. And that in centimeters is the figure standing 18.9, so almost 19 centimeters tall. Of course, if you're going to be having a look at the Joker, we're going to move him over for a second. We'll bring in his nemesis, the Batman, or is that vice versa? If you look at the figures side by side, first and foremost, I'm thrilled for the fact that Todd McFarlane and McFarlane's team, of course, when it came time to releasing a Batman, they did give us a Joker as well. That would have been disappointing if we had solely just gotten a Batman. So it's nice to be able to put both these figures side by side, sort of an upgraded sculpt and a better articulated figure than some of the Arkham Asylum figures that we had gotten years ago from a different company. Again, if you look at them side by side, first and foremost also, Joker is taller than Batman, which is a bit of a contradiction when we have a look at the trading card that comes included with Joker, but we'll talk about that in a second. It is nice again to see the figures side by side. Batman, technically, you could say, is a little bit taller than Joker, but that's only technically counting his ears. Would you count the ears, even though that isn't really technically the top of his head? I would still say Batman is a little bit shorter than Joker. Joker is the taller of the two. Though, yet, if you look at Joker's trading card that comes included with the figure first, and we also get ourselves a nice depiction of Joker here, a character model, if you will, of what the character will look like in the game. That's a nice, tall drink of water. Is that what they say? And down below, you got Joker Arkham Asylum. But the interesting thing about it is if you flip it around to the back, and then for this, of course, I'm going to have to bring in Batman's card. The source material is the same, Batman Arkham Asylum, a video game release in 2009. The real name of Joker is unknown, but the thing to take note of is if you look at the two heights of the figures, Joker, character-wise at least, is supposed to be 6 feet tall. Batman is supposed to be 6'2". And unless they counted the ears, which is very unlikely, I almost feel in the case of the figures that the stats should be flipped the other way around. Joker is clearly taller than Batman, and yet the trading cards would almost say otherwise. Joker here is 2 inches shorter than Batman, which isn't necessarily the case. He is also a very lean, mean fighting machine at 160 pounds. That's a very, like I said, tall drink of water. Is that what they say? Tall drink of water? To come included with the figure as well, you get yourself the circular black matte display stand with one singular peg wandering off screen there to the corner of the stand, and then you got a slightly different tint of black representing the DC logo down below. Joker, to be fair, doesn't have an issue standing. I haven't had any issues really with the figure standing because he has nice, large, flat feet. Yet, if you want to get a little bit more creative with your posing of the figure, I would most definitely make use of these stands because you can get, you can do a little bit more creative stuff going than simply just having him standing oh so blasé right over here. Other accessories that come included with the figure, we'll have a look at those right now. He does come with a pistol or revolver. Done very nicely here in this metallic silver paint. I gotta believe the majority of the plastic, all the plastic used for this was probably that black in the handle, and then they simply have just gone in and painted this silver to the majority of the gun. The gun is slightly less, more the barrel shape, which is normally more of a pipe shape. This is actually more of a rectangular shape, and it has a more simplified, stylized look to it. It looks really interesting though, kind of has a more upgraded, almost futuristic look to it, especially with the handle. It does fit in Joker's hand, but it fits the same awkward way that Batman held his grapple gun. Let me show you what I'm talking about. First and foremost, he actually has two different hands, obviously, left and the right, or vice versa, depending on what you want to consider your left and your right. One hand is clearly not designed for holding the pistol, the other one is clearly designed for holding the gun. If you fit this into his hand, just pry the fingers away from the palm and just navigate the handle into, just kind of twist it back and forth, there we go. It does fit into his hand eventually, but like the Batman, the hand really isn't designed with specifically a trigger finger, resulting in when Joker is holding the gun, it doesn't look like he's actually ready to fire the gun, almost more so like he's baiting and teasing the bats. Which is fine, it's not something I'm going to be laying awake at night wondering why they couldn't have put a trigger finger, because really when you do take these guns out of their hands, they always have that weird pointing finger thing, because obviously that finger is supposed to be around a trigger. So again, he doesn't have it necessarily, but I'm not super disappointed that he doesn't. I'm going to go ahead and take this off and just put this to the side, because I want to really look at the other accessories. He has these really interesting chattering teeth. We'll put the figure down here just for one split second. Don't worry, I'm going to be coming back to him in a second. He does come with a pair of chattering teeth. One of the open variety, one of the closed variety. They are really nicely sculpted little trinkets. Things, of course, to be the calling card of the Joker. Has the little cranks on the side, but these don't actually rotate. If you rotated it, two things would likely happen. You would twist these off, breaking the plastic from the rest of the mouth, and then you would probably cry for at least an hour, disappointed that you would have done that. Two different styles of chattering teeth. You see also there's the little hinge on the back there, done in a different color, a slightly darker silver. A slight discoloration also of the teeth. But these teeth, I just want to tell you also, don't open and close. This one obviously is permanent close, but this one you can't close shut. Two things would happen if you tried to do that. One, you would break and probably warp the back of the spine of the mouth, and you probably would break it off. And the second thing is you probably would cry for a couple of hours, at least a couple of hours. Now, these teeth do fit into his hand. Not the easiest, mind you. Of the two, though, I find the closed mouth, the closed chattering teeth, are the ones that work the best with his hand. To pull this off, a feat that isn't always successful, if you twist the hand around, you'll see that it looks like he almost wants to catch a softball. Well, if you take the teeth, you can actually put the teeth in between those fingers and underneath the thumb. Why I say this isn't something that you can always pull off is, while I've had some successful outings doing this, other times the mouth has popped right out of the hand. So like I said, it just sort of fits underneath or above the thumb, and just kind of underneath these fingers here. And then this pinky finger sort of just rests against it. Now, of course, I'm not being able to pull this off, but it does fit normally into the fingers. It's sort of a case of once you get them in place, there you go, there it is. Once you get it in place, it stays generally in place. And other times when you try to put it into his hand, the mouth shoots across the floor, and you're going to have to go and retrieve it. I haven't had as much luck. I'm going to pull this one off for the time being. I haven't had as much luck getting this mouth inside his hand. I don't know if it's just the shape of the teeth, the way that the mouth is opened, but I find the angle just doesn't work as well for him to properly hold it. I mean, of the two, I would have actually even preferred to have him displayed with this set of chompers, but unfortunately, again, I can't quite pull that off. Unless I slightly warp the fingers down with a little bit of hot water, that might be enough just to hold those in place. But of the two, like I said, the closed mouth, the closed chattering teeth seem to hold a little bit better in Joker's hand. We're going to move all those accessories out of the way, and of course now we're going to have a look at Joker. What a nice looking figure. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. It definitely does pull a lot of the elements from the Arkham Asylum games, specifically the one, of course, with Joker in it. The Widow's Peak, I believe that's what they call it. The styling of hair, of course, very, very reminiscent here on this particular Joker. Again, I really like the face on this one quite a bit. The only thing I could say as something I would have maybe wanted to see on this particular figure involves me then bringing the trading card in. while there's a lot of aspects that get shared from the illustration or the rendering here of the model versus what we actually get right here, a lot of it does carry over rather successfully. I think, if anything, I probably would have added a little bit of something to the white of the face. The face is white, of course, as it should be in the game. But if I would have added a little bit of a contrast of color, I mean, the area around the eyes, they've added a darker wash of black paint. If they had carried a little bit of that around the area of his forehead as well, like he's got some decent sculpting of this wrinkled section on top of his forehead here. If they had just added a little bit of that wash of paint, just so that some of those details would come out, I mean, you really would have a fantastic head sculpt. As it goes now, it's a good likeness of Joker. It's really just on a bit of a pale side, that's all. And while you could certainly say, well, Joker does have a pale face anyways, I think where you really miss some of the opportunities is because the details are there, but they're not painted differently. I mean, I feel like there's a lot more to the sculpt than what we're actually seeing, if that makes any sense. I mean, the little wrinkles right above his furrowed brow, just think if that was added just a little bit of that same dark paint here, how those details I feel would stand out a little bit more. I mean, other than that, I mean, it's just a great looking head sculpt. A very wide smile, almost from ear to ear. It captures really with the essence of Joker, almost slightly a little more cartoonier, but definitely a really nice looking head sculpt all around. The hair is really some of my favorite things about this particular figure. I like the way it's been combed back, and it has dark tones to it. Likely probably really dark paint, or the plastic itself was probably a really dark color of gray. And then they've just made the individual hairs that more swamp green color. I mean, check out that profile. That is amazing. It's definitely one of the more unique designs of Joker, and yet still staying pretty classic Clown Prince of Crime when you think about it. It's really, again, really nice looking head sculpt. I like how this one turned out. So looking at the rest of his outfit, obviously a lot of this is going to be sculpted together. Like jacket, for example, is not a separate piece. That's not necessarily a deal breaker for me. Generally, when you get Jokers, the torso is a separate piece, and then simply the jacket over top of it. You could be able to peel back the flap of the jacket. You can't quite pull that off here. So it loses a little something on the level of depth, because normally, again, you would have an extra piece of plastic for the jacket that would be slightly sticking out further forward. That was a hard thing to get out of. He does have, of course, the little flower there. Careful not to get too close to it. He does have his bow tie and some nice buttons done in a different color than the otherwise mustard yellow that they use for his inner vest. The panel lining that they've done for the pinstripe for his jacket is really quite nice. That carries also into his leg as well. The one thing I really would reward and award McFarlane Toys for this specific Joker is the amount of paint that they put into this piece. Like, there's a lot of good sculpting. And short of really, again, the face, where I feel like could have afforded just a little contrast color, I mean, everything else about the Joker, with the coloring of his sleeves, the cuffs that stick out from the bottom of his jacket sleeves, the coloring of his belt buckle, which is a different color altogether, the little chain, which certainly would, if you had gotten this figure, I would feel from a different company, that chain probably would have been the exact same color as the rest of his pants. But here they've actually afforded individual links all colored in their gold. Now again, like how much that would have been messed up, that leaking of gold, the bleeding of the gold into the purple certainly would have been there. I have to happily report that the chains, as you can see, are very nicely painted. There is no bleeding happening whatsoever here. The gloves are a different color than, of course, the rest of the jacket. These are more of a dark purple, borderlining almost black. The joints inside, what they actually have used is that same lilac purple for the rest of his jacket. Doesn't offset it too much because, well, you're really not going to see it because the cuffs of the sleeve cover so much of it. Of course, as you get further down are these spats of Joker's shoes. Very long, pointed shoes, certainly. I like also that the leg length is a little bit longer, that it drapes over top of the shoes. It does also a good job that way of hiding the joint, which I thought actually would have been sacrificed because the pant legs are so long, but you still can get that ankle pivot, you can still move the feet up and down, and you can still rotate them slightly back and forth as well. There are the peg holes promised on the undersides of Joker's feet. So again, you can peg that into a display stand if you so wish, if you'd like to do that. The only area about Joker's jacket that does have sort of a layered feel to it is obviously the tail on the back of the jacket, while all the rest of this is all solid plastic. It's the tail of the jacket is, of course, the more pliable plastic that has a little bit of flexibility going for it. Nice gold also done on the tops of the pockets. There's a lot of cool stuff that they put into this particular Joker. Let's have a look at the guy's articulation. His head rotates all the way around. It moves up, it moves down, it moves right, it moves left. Shoulders also move out at a full 90-degree angle. You also do have the additional socket joint that's at the base of the shoulder, which doesn't seem to serve as much the purpose as, say, some of the other figures that we've seen before. I can't quite crunch this socket any further forward or any further back than really the joint that's already at the top of the shoulder. Still though, the arms rotate all the way around. He has a swivel at the top biceps section of his arm, a nice double hinge on the elbow, which unfortunately Batman didn't have, and then he does also have the articulation in the hand. You can rotate those all the way around. Figure does have upper torso ball joint. The legs split out. And when I'm looking at a figure like this, because this is Joker and this is DC Multiverse, I'm so expecting to kind of look at this figure and expect that cut, that leg cut that the old DC Universe classic figures used to possess. But this is utilizing the new articulation, so it keeps things generally quite clean. And as you're actually rotating the figure's legs, I don't know if you can hear it or not, there is a ratcheted joint in there as well. So you got to feel like long term, that's going to guarantee the figure's legs are going to stay nice and stiff, and you're not going to have any issues. Even like the knee bend has a ratcheted joint, it seems, on the inside, working behind the scenes. So a lot of this figure, I feel, is going to stand the test of time when it comes to standing him. I don't feel like he's going to develop loose knees like perhaps some of the earlier Joker figures that came out under the banner of the Multiverse line. Again, we'll just move the figure over slightly, not get him to, there we go. I just mentioned he has no issues standing. Let's flatten out his feet. By the way, also he has toe articulation. Maybe that's why the universe wasn't allowing me to stand him properly. But again, just get the figure's feet completely firmly planted. There we go. There we go. And then we'll bring in, once again, Batman. I know I said this before, and I'll say this again. Certainly it's pleasant. It is pleasant to be able to get a Joker and Batman of the same universe. Now this, I don't know if this is going to be simply, this is it, one and done. We're only going to be doing Batman. We're only going to be doing Joker from the Arkham Asylum line. I mean, based on the designs, some of them more favorable than others, at least for me. I would be thrilled to see a Harley Quinn presented in her Arkham Asylum outfit. It'd be curious to see whether McFarlane branches out simply from the Arkham Asylum of these two figures into more characters. Or, again, if it's simply going to be Batman, and it's simply going to be Joker, and then that's going to be it. So the newest wave of the DC Multiverse figures have finally now started to circulate in Canadian stores. I'm sure for many of my US viewers, you guys have probably been seeing these figures in your stores for probably like the last couple of weeks. Canada always tends to be a bit behind by a few weeks, but they're now starting to pop up at places like EB Games, where I found actually these 4 figures. They're still not in places like Walmart. They're still not in places like Toys R Us, so it probably will be a couple of weeks, again, maybe 1 or 2 before they start popping up in places like that. Of the 4 figures that trickled through was, of course, the 84 Wonder Woman with a really good likeness of Gal Gadot, a questionable lighter color in her hair and maybe slightly paler skin, but not a bad figure when it's all said and done. The gold armor Wonder Woman, again, another figure from the 84 Wonder Woman sequel. Really great looking figure. I like the gold on that one with the wings. The head sculpt was fantastic. Really solid figures. And then, of course, we move to Arkham Asylum territory, dealing, of course, with the release of a Batman and a Joker. The Batman I was certainly going to be on the fence about, not liking the design of him from the video games. It's probably one of my least favorite designs of Batman of all time, and yet still I ended up liking that figure when it was all said and done. And then, of course, that leads us to the Clown Prince of Crime. Easily my favorite of the 4. I would say him and probably Gold Armor Wonder Woman are my favorite 2 figures of the 4 figures that came out recently. Joker has a nice likeness to him. His face is a bit on the pale side, very chalky white. And while he does have that also in the game, I probably would have added a few contrasts of colors, slightly darker colors, sort of the same coloring that he had around his eyes. Don't go too crazy with that, but if they had maybe just done that around the areas of his cheeks, maybe around his forehead, it would have added a little bit of extra depth and most definitely brought some of the details that I know are there, you just don't see them as well. But like I said, a nice devilish smile, really an excellent likeness to Joker, a nice, tall, lanky Joker as well, with all real stiff joints. So when you are posing this figure, I don't feel like I'm going to have any issues with loose knees, loose ankles, like maybe some of the other companies that we've had a look at for DC figures. You probably know the ones I'm talking about. He doesn't have much in the way of accessories. A revolver, a stand, of course, and he comes with a pair of chattering teeth. The chattering teeth don't stay well in his hand. Of the two, I can actually get the closed chattering teeth more in his hand, but that's hit or miss. Sometimes I can get them in his fingers, sometimes I can't. For final looks, obviously I've got them in his hand, but I think they probably could have also given us an extra hand that had a peg, maybe rooted in the base of the palm, that you could have pegged to the back hole of the chattering teeth, if the chattering teeth had a hole. That could have probably been one workaround to not getting to, of course, trying to get the chattering teeth into his hand, which is about the only thing that I had issues with when it came to displaying the figure. When it comes to displaying the figure, I'm probably going to display him with the chattering teeth. I just hope they stay in between his fingers the way that they currently look right now. Again, a really great likeness of Joker. Of the four figures, I'm definitely landing my favorites at being this Joker and the gold armor Wonder Woman as my favorites. What are your favorites of the four figures that we've had a look at of the current wave of DC Multiverse? Have you managed to also pick up Joker for yourself and the Batman? If so, what do you guys think of it? Or based on this review, what do you guys think of the Joker and Batman from Arkham Asylum? Again, if you guys are in Canada, these should now start circulating now. If you guys are in the US, you probably already have this, and you probably already picked these up weeks ago, and you're probably going na 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 na, and that's not very nice. If you guys are new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, turn the bell notification on, and most definitely keep your peepers peeled, because we're going to have a whole bunch of videos coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching as you always do, and I'll see you guys next time.